I said with this car, I'm going to be swapping out the direct injection injectors, which are called the lower injectors. That's what they're identified as by Ford, the lower injectors. So we're going to be swapping out all 8. When the car came in, it had a issue where it was idling rough, running really rough, and had excessive fuel consumption. Initially, I thought it was the primary injectors, so I had them cleaned and serviced, and everything came back awesome with those. So after further diagnostics, I determined that it was the high pressure injectors, which are the lower injectors for the direct injection. I'll drop a little quick clip right here of what it was doing as far as dumping fuel in the cylinder. Okay, so basically what you guys saw was the injector is basically open and it's just dumping fuel directly in the cylinder, flooding the plugs and everything. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into getting this swapped out. The injectors are under the intake manifold, so the first step is gonna be taking out the intake manifold.
Light this bitch up.
Okay guys, so we got the manifold off, got the lower rail exposed. So we got 8 lower injectors just like the top. I'm gonna go ahead and get those out. First thing you're gonna want to do is remove these little isolators. These are rubber insulators. So you want to go ahead and unplug these connectors, 4 on this side and 4 on the other side. You have some little lock-in clips under here, so you just push the clip up and pull forward, and same thing for the others. And then the harness is pushed into the rail. It's secured into the rail, so you're going to want to disconnect that so you could remove the rail easily. Okay, so we have the harness here free on both sides. We also have a sensor here at the rear, which is the rail pressure sensor for the high pressure side. So you also want to go ahead and disconnect that. One thing I did forget to mention earlier is once you get the manifold off, make sure to put either tape, cloth, something in the ports for the head, so that way you don't accidentally drop something in there and you forget about it and cause additional damage. So just make sure to block off these ports here for the cylinder head. I did forget to mention that earlier. So next, after you unplug the harness, both here for the injectors and also the one back there for the rail sensor, you want to go ahead and disconnect this line. This one is a crossover, so it goes from one wheel to the other. You don't have to mess with this one. this is the one that feeds from the high pressure pump, so you want to go ahead and disconnect this line. It may still have some pressure in there depending on how long you had your car off or how many cranks or temp you did. It may still have some pressure in there, so just be careful when loose. Okay, so we have that off. Next step is you're going to want to go ahead and loosen all these bolts that hold the rail in place. So there's 4 on this side and 4 on that side. Let's remove those and secure the bolts. So the injectors are in there pretty tight, so you just want to give it a gentle let it pry up to get the rail up and off the injectors. Okay, so I have the rail out, and some of the injectors came out with the rail, some were left in there, so I just had to take them out. Not a big deal. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the others off the rail, and I'll show you guys what they look like. Okay, so I have all 8 injectors out. Be mindful when you remove the injectors to remove these O-rings. They tend to stay in the rail, and the new injectors comes with new O-ring and spacer and everything. So make sure when you remove the injectors, just make sure you account for all the O-rings being out and you don't double O-ring, which will cause a leak in the future. So let me go ahead and remove all these O-rings. Okay, so we got all the O-rings out, all the little caps, and it's basically you should have 8. So 3 sets of 8. Just account for all of them to make sure none of them are left either in the car or on the rail, because that's going to cause a problem in the future for sealing. Next, you're going to want to remove these clips at the back. Let me see if I could do it with one hand. These retainer clips are going to be used to hold. Can't do it with one hand. These retainer clips are going to be used to hold the new injector onto the rail. So make sure you remove these. Pretty simple. You just put a screwdriver here at the top and just pry it back. This is the part number for the injectors from the dealer. And these are the new injectors. Be sure to lube the seals a little bit before you put them into the rail. You don't want to put the O-rings in dry because it could tear or rip them. So I'm going to just add a little bit of seal and then put the O-rings into the rail. I did separate the rail because it's going to be easier to put it in with the O-rings, with the injectors on, than having it all together. So I just separated one side. So I'm gonna go and lube the rail, lube the O-rings, and then put them into the rail. Okay, so once you have the injectors installed, you want to go ahead and install the retainer clips back in place. Now this is how the clips go. They are a little bit tricky. They do not go on the underside. They go on the top side of the rail, and just like as pictured. And I'll show you on this rail. Let me see if I could do it with one hand. So It goes like this, goes in, and as you can see, it sits here on the top. It sits here, not on there like this. It sits on top. So you just push that in and like that. And what that does is when you tighten it down, it doesn't force it here into the rail. It actually pushes the whole thing down onto the washers here so it can seal. Okay, so let me go ahead and install the other three, and then I'll be ready to install the rail back into the car. So we got the passenger driver's side rail ready. We know it's the driver's side because that's the side that has a sensor. And we're gonna drop that one back into the ports slowly. Get the harness out of the way. I'm just gonna push it down evenly until it completely seats like that. So we have that side installed. Let's go ahead and put back the bolts. And the bolts are going to help to line it up. And before we tighten this side, we're going to put the other side so we could catch back the fit in here, which is going to be easier. Once this is loose, it's going to be easier for you to reattach that line. So let me get the other side. So same thing here, just feed it into the holes and evenly just push it down until it seats. Okay, so we have it seated. I'm gonna go ahead and reattach this line here. Okay, so we have that line reattached, and then we're gonna go ahead and tighten back all 8 bolts to hold the rail down. Okay, so once you have the rail secured down with the bolts, I'm gonna tighten this line and reattach this feed line here and tighten both those lines. Okay, and once those lines are secured, we're gonna go ahead and reconnect all the connectors, the one for the rail pressure and then all 8 for the injectors. Okay, so we got connectors on and it's time for the manifold. Don't forget to reinstall these. They are labeled. It has front with an arrow pointing forward. This one has rear with an arrow pointing forward also. So don't forget to reinstall these before you actually put the manifold in. So the arrow, front pointing forward, rear pointing towards the rear, and now you're ready for the manifold. Okay, so the manifold is in. If you have IMRC, remember to plug all 3 connectors on before you fully put the manifold back, or you're not going to be able to get to the plugs. If you don't have IMRC, then you should be good. There's nothing back there to worry about. And basically now it's just repeating the steps that you took everything off, you just put it back on. So I'm gonna go ahead and put everything back on, and then we're gonna start this thing up and see how she runs.